Despite some hiccups, the season is in full swing now. Here's a quick look at everything the new season pass has to offer. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were all offline for at least a good 4 or 5 hours Tuesday afternoon, and I even had some folks saying they weren't even able to get into the game at all on Tuesday. Really hoping we won't run into any issues on Vault of Glass next Saturday.
Because I think this might be the most powerful one. Touch of Winter buffs your grenades, so it buffs all 3 of them. This is roughly 17 meters, but it's close enough. Alright, I'll throw this grenade. It's gonna hit him, and it aggressively tracks faster and to more targets, so that's really nasty. That grenade is gonna be insane.
Transmog will be heavily tied to the cash shop as a replacement for the items that Bungie will no longer be creating, as a way to continuously make profit while putting in as little work as possible and reselling you things you already own.
The Sin Strand is from kills, but it turns out there's a lockout on getting Sin Strand quickly. This shouldn't be a surprise, since there was an XP lockout, Lost Sector loot lockout, and even Glimmer lockout from rapid kills. That means that to complete all 30 bounties, it will take at least 150 hours of game time to get all of the free ornaments each season.
I hate gamer movements. They're bullshit, and most of the time they're done for clout. But this one is very justified. I tried. I genuinely did. But it's time to call it what it is. An unfun, unhealthy, unbalanced, easy win button that does more harm than good. That comes from one of the most level-headed players that I know within the Destiny 2 community, Ascendant Nomad. If you've caught any of our interviews with him, you would probably agree. Where we're at right now within the Destiny 2 community, within the health of the game as a whole, is a very interesting cocktail. We've got a healthy amount of stuff that is very, very positive. The majority of the player base are quite happy, but then we have a good chunk of the community that is also very, very upset and in a general state of discomfort and unrest. Welcome back, Guardians, to another TDT video. I'm your humble host, Meesum777. I really don't like pointing out or making news about the not great stuff that's happening within the game. I love this game and I want to see it do its best, but we're at a very strange place as consumers, as players, and as a community. We've got a lot of good stuff that has come, but with that has come almost like cyst or a tumor, a handful of bad things that either have not been addressed or will not be addressed by Bungie. We're going to talk about some of that here as reasonably as we can. Please feel free to leave your comments down below as to your thoughts to any of this that we're going to discuss here, and call me out if you think I'm talking BS. The newest season as a whole has been pretty positive. The majority of the casual player base has been enjoying, for the most part, the experience of this new season. The Vaporwave dimension is really cool. The story with Mithrax has been quite awesome. It's great to see some serious story development within the game that we've been so desperately lacking for a long time. There's also been a handful of new weapons and exotics that people are quite excited to get their hands on. And in particular for the Destiny 2 PvP scene, as a whole, the weapon balance sandbox is possibly one of the best it's been. There are still a few small outliers here and there, but as a whole, it's pretty smooth. But unfortunately, as with every other news on the planet, that isn't the type of stuff that people want to talk about. If it was all puppies, rainbows, and baby dregs, this video wouldn't need to be made. But here we are. Players are upset and frustrated with the transmog system. They feel like their time is being forcefully drained from them in order to get something that they feel they deserve as a free-to-play player, or even as somebody who's paid over $60 for the game and has spent a lot of time and energy in order to prop up this franchise. The transmog system has not been handled in such a way that players are finding enjoyable. There's a number of reasons as to why that might be. My personal look into this is A, that it takes too long to actually get what it is you are looking for, as seen within Cheese Forever's video, and B, that the actual grind to get this type of stuff done is unfun and uninteresting. It would be much better for players if they could, say, complete a raid or go, let's say, through a few rounds of PvP, get their transmog bounties and synthweaves taken care of all in one good clean sweep in a fashion or in a manner that they found particularly enjoyable. But unfortunately, it has come around to be very similar to the weekly bounty grind system of old before we finally ended up changing it. And to make the deal even saltier, it does not feel good to have the carrot dangled in front of you that you can simply spend even more money on this game to skip a large portion of time through the Eververse store and the in-game cosmetics. But in my opinion, that is a far smaller issue than what has become of the stasis balance within these subclasses. With the latest aspects and fragments, we have seen not just a change within how stasis can work, but a straight linear buff. Primarily, the new aspects for Hunter is a direct, straight up buff to the most powerful thing within the stasis subclasses kit, which is the grenades. Cold Snap grenades were the only grenades in the last round of nerfs that didn't get anything to affect it. In fact, they ended up getting some quality of life buffs, making them easier to use. With this new aspect, players are able to use Cold Snap grenades even more effectively, and players are sick and tired of having to deal with it. I have loaded into multiple games and I have seen 5 Revenant Hunters and 1 Dawnblade, or some variation of that mix. Or I've loaded into a game with the entire enemy team loaded up entirely with stasis because they're able to abuse the new mechanics, the new fragments, and the new aspects that have come to them. This wouldn't necessarily be an issue if we knew that changes were coming to the game in a reasonable amount of time. If, as a player, I went into a game and knew that within a week stasis would be balanced out and we wouldn't be having these problems anymore, it would feel okay. But unfortunately, the way that Bungie has done patches, we can only expect this to take possibly months for them to finally getting around to nerfing it down. I respect Bungie for trying to not go with the cleaver approach to nerfing stasis and trying to take more of a scalpel to it, be more precise and be more accurate to make sure that it still feels good and it's not nerfed into the ground. But where we're at right now is so many players have put up with a stasis meta since the very release of Beyond Light, whether it be through the Hunter, the Warlock, or the Titan. They're tired of it, myself included. It is getting to a point where stasis becomes so much of a thorn in my side that is becoming difficult to ignore. Many players have suggested that stasis should be straight up turned off in PvP. And while I disagree with that action, I understand where the sentiment is coming from. One of the things I would like to ask all of the viewers at home is that I would like to ask players if you are interested to pull back on your stasis usage. Try using light-based subclasses in 6v6 game modes. I'm never going to be able to stop high-end PvP players from using the strongest stuff possible, from frankly, if I may be blunt, crutching the strongest stuff possible. I'm of course not innocent on this either. I still love my Fellwinter's Lie. I'm still waiting for Bungie to give me a quick draw slug shotgun, but until that happens, I will continue to use the Fellwinter's Lie, and I understand that a lot of people get pissed off at that. But for the players who are looking to have a more enjoyable experience for all players involved, consider pulling away from the highly meta stuff within casual playlists. I'm sure a lot of the new lights would also appreciate it. I have a brother who's recently started Destiny, and he's very frustrated that as soon as he loads into the game, he doesn't have Beyond Light, and he's getting absolutely obliterated by things he is struggling to counter because of how powerful the abilities are right now. I don't know what the future holds for Bungie. I don't know what the future holds for the sandbox, but I'm hoping the directions that they end up taking are smart decisions, and I hope more than anything that they are fast. I would much rather have stasis be too nerfed for a period of time rather than having stasis eventually getting the correct nerf. Let's hope that transmog does come to a place where players and Bungie are able to find a happy compromise. Let's keep hoping that the season continues with these awesome weapons and this awesome story. Until then, for all players involved, make sure that you are giving Bungie your feedback. Be reasonable, be polite, but don't be afraid to tell them the truth. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you want more of this stuff. Bless your faces, and deuces.